Hello and welcome to my J-Focus talk. The effective developer works smarter, not harder. I wish I could be now in Stockholm here at the waterfront, but unfortunately I cannot, right? But fingers crossed, next year, coming to Stockholm, Sweden. So let's get started with the effective developer. So if we think about what is an effective developer doing, right? I immediately think about these effective developers write very, very smart code. Code that is very smartly written, everything just in 3 lines of code. Amazing what functionality goes in 3 lines of code. You're just amazed, right? Then those developers are fixing bugs immediately. So if a bug comes in the evening, next day, it's already fixed. Just amazing how fast that goes. And then these people are adding features like a champ. They just get something from the backlog, and once the day is over, it's done. It's already deployed and running in production. Amazing. And also those developers are never stop and are always hacking. If they run into a problem, like they're missing some design from the designers, they stop working on one task, go to another task and work on this until the designer comes back with something, and then they stop and finish the task before. Very, very effective. And also those developers live and breathe code. They know where things are in the code. They get up with the code. They go to bed with the code. They know the code inside out. That was me, actually. That was my perception of an effective developer in 2003. When I got 3 years into my career as a software developer, I thought I am super effective. Now, looking back, 2021, 18 years later, was I really that effective? I don't think so. So let's take a look at that again. First, very, very smart code, super smart code. But then I was actually writing that smart code, but then I said, please don't touch it. It is working now, and I've written tests and everything, but I don't know why it's working, to be honest. But it is working. Let's don't touch it. Then fixing all the bugs, right? I was fixing bugs very, very quickly. Somebody reported a bug to me. I was very embarrassed that my software had bugs, so I fixed it. But I never fixed the root problem. I should have taken the time actually to fix the root problem. Anyway, adding features like a champ, just getting on the backlog and adding features, and people coming into the room, and I added features that they wanted. But honestly, not all the features that I worked on, or most of the features actually, were never used or rarely used. I should have worked on the bigger features and make them really stick, instead of just adding all the features that people wanted to have in the software. I never stopped. I was always hacking, jumping from task to task and back to the other task. That required a lot of context switching. And we know context switching just takes time to get into a problem, to understand it, to work on it, and then come back to another problem. It just takes time, context switching. We should avoid context switching as much as possible. And then I was living and breathing code. I was just thinking in code all the time. But what it didn't have actually is the broader view. Where should the software go? What is the vision for the software, or even for the product, right? So I was just looking at the code on its own. Well, so sad that is I was probably very, very efficient, but effective. I was probably not very effective, right? So if you want to be more efficient, work on that. That's fine. That's good, and that's also valuable. Don't get me wrong here. But working more efficient, getting more stuff done, requires us to work harder, right? Where we should invest more time in actually working a little bit smarter. And this is what this talk is about. This talk is the effective developer and how we can actually work smarter instead of working harder. And the first thing I want to talk about is code. And code, actually, we should look at code as a team, right? It is the team code. So we all know we are software developers. So writing good code takes actually time. It takes time to come up with great code, with great naming conventions, all the stuff, right? But then, actually, a boss of mine once said, "Well, Sven, why did you take so much time to write the code, right? The machine actually doesn't care; it just compiles it to bytecode and then gets executed, right?" The thing is, it's true. The machine doesn't care about my good coding skills, but actually, humans do, right? So we need to keep our code maintainable. And to be honest, we read code more often than we write code. You jump more into a class and look at the class and try to understand it than actually people have spent written that class. And if you look at a class like this, and I once a week ago opened this one actually, and I thought, what the hell is going on here? So I don't understand what's going on here. Naming wrong, intents were wrong. I didn't really get what it was. And then I looked actually, who can I blame for that code? And I looked at it and said, "Oh, I wrote it 6 months ago. Okay, good. Let's do a little bit of refactoring here and fix some things. And there's a lot of stuff wrong in that part of code. But actually coming up with some coding conventions as a team, right? How you want to write code can help you tremendously to read your code faster. And I say as a team because your whole team needs to have that way of thinking. If everyone writes different code, it doesn't help you. You cannot read code from other people if you don't have the same coding conventions. It just takes too much time to try to understand the code. It's a little bit like this here. The human mind does not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole. And that's the same with code. You just take a look at the code and you get a glimpse of where things are in the code if you have good team coding conventions. So work on that. The another thing that I said is just like I wrote clever code that I actually didn't understand anymore at the end. And it was just like maybe to show off what cool programmer I am. But this was super wrong, and it is wrong. Clever code, if you see clever code and you don't really understand and say, this must be so clever, I don't understand it, it's wrong. Simplicity over cleverness. Work on that. Make your code more simple so more people understand it. As I said, we write to code together as a team, right? And everyone in the team needs to understand that code. So how do you make your code more simple? What is simple code actually? Is your code simple enough? Good question. How do you find out? Well, make the canary test. So for people that don't know what the canary test is, it's like the coal miners that were taking the canary bird into the coal mines, and if the air got polluted, the bird fell down and died, and everyone had to get out of the coal mine. So also do the canary test with your code. How does that work? Well, give your code actually to junior developers and find out if your code is simple enough. If they understand it, it is simple enough. If they don't understand it, well, your whole team doesn't understand the code probably, right? So try to make the canary test with your junior developers. So how do you do that? How do you give the code to your junior developers? Well, we all know that we should invest time in code reviews, right? Use a tool for code reviews and do that. It is not only just to see if your code is simple enough, it also inspires junior developers, says, oh, I didn't know that, so they find out. It also ensures of consistent code quality. Your code quality is consistent because you work together on that code and everyone is fixing that. So, said that is code reviews are hard. It is not an easy thing. Code reviews are never easy. And you should do code reviews right to encourage people to keep on going with code reviews. I've seen that in some teams that they give up because there was a lot of ranting in code reviews. So they said, oh, it doesn't give us value. So how do you make code reviews right? So a few rules here. First, seek to understand. If you're doing a code reviews, try to understand what the author wanted to do here. Maybe there was no other options. Maybe you wanted to start ranting, but there was no other options. If you find something that you don't like, criticize the idea and never the people, right? Blame the idea. The idea isn't good enough. Well, just come up with some suggestions how to improve it, right? Don't just rant and say this is awful, but also give people a hint what they should do to improve that code. said that is, don't try to spoon feed people, right? So people should come up with their own ideas and their own answers to things. So don't be like the teacher. Just try to give some hints where to improve things. And then also please comment on positive things too. That really encourage people to do code reviews, right? Maybe put that on your wall or something. If you're doing code reviews, encourage these values, come up with your own values and improve your team code. Wow. The second thing to be more effective is to learn, to constantly learn. And it was when I started in the job, I was so curious about how people are doing things in code. I mean, I was coming fresh from the university and I was looking at the code and saying, wow, cool, that's a great idea. I didn't know that this is possible. This is so great. I was so enthusiastic about new technologies that I learned, and our industry still is. If there's a new technology, right? We're hearing at a conference, maybe at JFocus or somewhere else, and we think, wow, exciting, I want to get this. I want to get this in my code. It makes my code so much better. I want to be make me so productive. Let's try that out and put that in code. Okay, I'm too long in this industry that I think this is so great that we all try this cool new stuff, even though we're getting excited about it. And when I was young, I was saying, yeah, that's great. Why are we doing it? If you're longer in this industry, you get a little bit like this here, a little bit grumpy, right? And said, if I put it in production, I have to maintain it, and then it gets out of maintenance from the original author. And then it's in my code, so I have to replace it. Well, you come up with sentences like this. You hear from grumpy developers like, I'll also survive the microservice and serverless hype, right? Or really in your front framework again? Or Scrum boards. I already know what's important. I don't need a board for that. Or even here, code reviews. That's not for me. My code is perfect. Have you heard these things from senior developers? Well, you can call them grumpy developers, right? But don't follow that rabbit hole. Being in our industry is constantly learning. We're learning constantly. We need to constantly see new technologies, and we need to constantly understand what's the value of this technology. So when I was commuting to work back in the days, I even can't remember when that was, but I think a year ago or something, I was actually listening on my commute to podcasts and audiobooks. Nowadays, I'm doing a walk outside or I'm doing a workout outside, and then I'm listening to podcasts and audiobooks about technology. So I constantly keep myself up with the newest developments. If things allowed again, go to local meetups. They are still happening in a virtual world. So also here, go to meetups, also virtually, and try to build your network and build connections with people. That also works in a virtual world with online meetups. So go to that. And also what we do actually at MongoDB is we are having this book club. Where we, developer relation folks, are reading a book, and then we meet each week to discuss a chapter of the book. So we're reading a chapter each week, and then we discuss things. And this really is gives me not just my point of views, but also the point of views from other people, which helps me actually also encourage me to learn, because I'm normally not reading books that much, but now that I'm in the book club, I actually get a book finished every 2 months, which is awesome. And then also video Fridays. So meet with your coworkers on a Friday afternoon, watch a video from a conference. There are so much out there from JFocus. Can just recommend some. Just ping me a message and I can do that. But watch a video with your coworkers and have a discussion about it, right? And then go into the weekend afterwards. Learning actually makes new connections in our brains. We all know that. But it's not just about making new connections and learning, right? We also need to get rid of some connections and learn to unlearn. This is also super important because our industry moves forward so fast. So some things that you learned in the past are not true anymore, right? So you need to unlearn and accept new knowledge. Like I was actually learning in the university that the waterfall methods is the best methodology actually to develop software. And I had to unlearn that. And now we think agile is the best thing. maybe there's something even better than that. We need to unlearn that again. So instead of being grumpy, become a happy developer and constantly learn and also unlearn. But there's one thing missing here, and this is the unknowns. And you also learn from experimentation to try things out, to try something new, not just what other people have thought, but also get your own feet wet, right? And try to experiment. So experimentation makes you more effective. So what is dictating actually what we work on each day? This year, the board, right? It's all on the board. All that we want to do is on the board. Well, that's not true. All we want to do is, of course, also in the backlog, in Jira somewhere hidden. People are putting improvements, feature requests, everything in, and we just take it, put it on the board, and we actually know that this is probably not the best thing that we should work on or the best thing that we can do, right? If we're just running and taking tasks from the board and work on it. So we actually know that this is not the best thing to do. There are actually known unknowns, things that could maybe improve us. Maybe there are better solutions than this one that is on the board that we're working on, or a better technology that actually help us, or new technology that can help us be more effective, or even can solve the problem better. And also maybe there are missed opportunities, right? Things that are somewhere in the backlog, or even not in the backlog at all, that are just better than the thing that we are currently working on and helping our customers more. How can we know the known unknowns? How can we work on those? Well, don't be shy, just try, right? New technology, well, we should try that out, right? Even though we don't use it yet, we should take time to just sharpen our knives, right? And just try some new technology out. If you want to learn Kotlin, do it as a team. Just take 1.5 hour each week, take the time and learn with the team Kotlin. Even though you don't work on Android stuff or anything, or you can't use that in production anyway, but it's a good way to understand this technology a little bit better. So 1.5 hour coding each week, which means 1.5 hours investing in improvement. Another thing is like train your tools, right? Or train how to use your tools, right? There's so much functionality sometimes in your tools, keyboard shortcuts for IDEs, for example, that can make you more efficient, or things that you have missed in the libraries that you're using. Right? So learn those, or learn new tools. Just take a look at what's out there. Like if you use Jenkins, maybe try some GitHub Actions. Try that out and see how that feels like. Or if you use your IDE, just try some cloud IDEs and see where they are at, like Gitpod. So just invest some time in training with tools, right? Maybe half an hour each week, which means in the sum of 2 hours of improving. Now, I was talking about the things that maybe there are better solutions out there, right? Maybe we're not working on the right things. Maybe this is not innovative, what we're doing, right? And maybe some innovations can help us to boost our product forward, right? So we have those ideas, right? The problem is not the lack of ideas. We have some cool ideas for the software often. The problem is the lack of time to try them out and see if they really stick, right? So what can you do? Well, if you have been to my talks before, I've been talking a lot at JFocus also about 24-hour hackathon, ship it days, right? Do some 24-hour hackathon, do them quarterly, and for 24 hours work on some really innovative stuff that you want to see in your software, happening in your software. And to be honest with you, a lot of ideas that we have been working on in 24-hour hackathon were just like, boo, gone, because it didn't really work out. It was maybe a good idea, but seeing that in action, maybe it didn't stick too much. But some ideas really get stuck, right? And then you're putting them on the shelf and they put dust on because you never get time to work on those, right? How do you get time to work on your great ideas to really make them, foster them and make them into the product? On the other side, you probably, if you don't have so many great ideas or can work on so many great ideas, but you probably also in your software have a lot of what we call paper cuts, like these small things that hurt the customer a little bit, like it's a little bit uncomfortable for the customer, but they can work with it. But then you never get time to fix those. These are called paper cuts. And if you have a lot of these small problems in your software, that's going to be a problem then. Maybe you heard the term of death by 1,000 paper cuts. So work on these paper cuts, but they never make it to your board, right? To your Scrum board. So what we do is actually we're doing every 8 weeks, we're doing one innovation week. So one innovation week every 8 weeks. We really take 1 week off to work on those things, right? And we worked on those as a team. And out of that comes maybe a lab functionality for our software, or we're fixing small things that help our customers to overcome some smaller hurdles. And that makes obviously a lot in your timesheet, right? It makes now 5 hours of improvement for each week if you do it at every 8 weeks, and that actually is 7 hours of innovation time of improving your work is spent on those tasks. Think about it, 7 hours each week. That's not a lot, but you're getting better. See how much soccer teams actually train each week, right, to get better. You should also take time off to get better. Invest time in discovery. It really helps your product and making your product better. And then also work on what matters, right? Find out what really matters to your customers, and don't work on the things that people think, oh, cool, this is a new cool technology we should use in our software. It can solve some not problems, but something that our customers maybe want, right? I recently stumbled about that functionality in a car from a car manufacturer, like with Geisters. Just control the radio while with Geisters. What does that solve? What was actually the problem? What does the inventor think of? What is the problem here that we want to solve with that product that we just developed here? Probably a lot of investment went into that. And it's very innovative and very cool. But what was really the problem they wanted to solve, right? Questionable. Just write everything down, like why do you want to solve it? Where's the validation data? And also, what are possible solutions? Maybe the Geistra thing is not the best solution for keeping the eye on the road if you want to turn on the volume. Maybe that was a problem. I don't know. Well, write down everything in a project poster. So we developed the thing of a project poster where we ask actually questions before we start a project. People need to fill out that project poster. And then everyone is working on that. The whole team is working on that to try to understand the problem, to find validation data. So it's just a template that we use. We can use it in Google Doc, or you can use it in Confluence, wherever you want. Just write this down. And the good thing is it does not only help actually to understand the problem, it also helps if people are asking, what are you working on and why are you working on that? Well, you can always show the project poster. Show people the project poster. So project poster done, a new feature implemented, but there are so many great ideas, right? So many great things that we can put on a project poster and where we say, okay, we want to solve that problem or this problem. But what of those hundreds of things you should really work on? So think about that. Work on these things where the customer spent the most time. So work actually on your happy path of your software to make that nail really that. Sometimes it is great to put in a new feature, but often it is just better to optimize the path that the customer has to take through your software. So how do you do that? So what we do is actually we do some exercise that's called journey mapping. So we write down here on the yellow post-its, what are the customers doing? So which steps do they take? And then we write down what are the problems they run into when they do that. And sometimes very obviously that we can, with small things, fix a lot of stuff. So we write that down with the pink post-its or red post-its, whatever you call that. We write down how can we solve that problems that become maybe issues that we're going to solve or features that we're going to solve and work on that. And we do that actually for our different design personas that we have. If you want to learn more about personas, there's also a talk from me from a previous J-Focus where I talk about personas. Now, you must say, Sven, this is a developer conference, right? I care about the code. So, and you tell these things about the product all the time, right? Improving the product. I care about the code. My job is it to improve the code, right? I don't need to understand the product that much. So here's a quote. I wish engineers spend less time understanding the problem and more time coding. Who said that? That said nobody ever, right? Nobody says that. It is also our responsibility to build the best things for our users, right? To understand what's the problem with our users. So it is important that we learn the product. Maybe not if you're the junior developer and just started last month. Maybe not. Maybe you should learn the code first. Sure. But if you're 2-3 years in programming, maybe you want to learn also a little bit more about the product and become a product engineer, right? That's a great thing because it's just the gap between engineering, coding on one side and product management on the other side. If you bridge that, right, that's just so cool and match made in heaven, right? So how do you become more closer to the product? Do some hallway testing. If you have done a new feature that the product manager maybe wants to show to the customer, go before, do some hallway testing, show them some co-workers, let them test it and bulletproof it. So you come up with you already come with a well-designed product to your product manager. Do developer on support. Send your developers on support or go yourself on support to learn about what are the real issues that our customers have. Just do that. I don't know, once a year or 2 times a year, just to learn what's the real issue our customers have with the product, to work on the right things, to come back to your team and say, well, our customers have really a problem by using that feature. So we need to improve that. Or become a data detective. Just look at not just at the performance data, but also at the user data. Like, what are the 90% where is the happy path that our customers spend the most time in, and how can we improve that? So also dive deep into data and become a product engineer. And that actually makes you an effective developer too, right? So 4 things that I talked about here. The first thing is team code. Invest time in code reviews, right? Have rules or guidelines for code reviews to not suffer from code reviews, but just like take the full advantage of code reviews. Make your code as simple as possible so everyone in your team understands your code. Constantly learn, listening to podcasts, do book clubs, whatever, and also unlearn some stuff. Helps you to understand new technologies. Experiment, try things out, doing innovation weeks, and see how your great ideas stick with the customers. And then also work really, and that's the most important thing I think here, the most important takeaway. Work on what matters. Try to find out what is the problem that we want to solve. How do we solve that? What are possible solutions? And then go with that and try that out. And that actually makes you effective. Now, effectiveness, you already saw that it's not a straight line. I cannot give you this is the way to go, right? Other than efficiency, right? You can work on efficient things. And don't get me wrong, I was ranting a little bit in the beginning of efficiency, right? Efficiency is super, super important too. But it's just another view on things. If you want to be efficient, great. Work on automation. Yeah, automate things to be more efficient. Let the machines do more work. Learn your tools, right? Learn your tools deep. Learn the terminal helps you a lot with being more efficient. And then carve out time for deep work to just concentrate on stuff for a longer period of time. So efficiency is great, but it just helps you to get more stuff done. You just have to know that. It is just like you get more stuff done in less time. Where effectiveness gets you done the right stuff. That is actually important for your customers. So, in other words, where efficiency is about the output that you generate, the effectiveness is about the outcome for your customers. So, I just want you to think about outcome first, be effective, and get stuff done. That's it. Thank you very much, and I hopefully can see you next year at JFocus in Stockholm.